Welcome to a unique place where sci-fi and humanity HFY blends into a single, expansive universe. Here, every story I share is set in the same universe, but told from different perspectives across time and space. Dive into our channel and explore this universe through the eyes of its heroes and villains. This story is about Omega Prime. Beneath the undulating expanse of an ocean, the war room of the Neo-Tech Poseidon hummed with a quiet intensity. Screens lining the walls flickered with data streams and satellite images, illuminating the faces of those assembled with a ghostly azure glow. At the center of this orchestrated chaos stood Omega Prime, his metallic frame still, almost contemplative, as if he were absorbing the room's undercurrent of anxious determination. General Hawthorne, a grizzled veteran of many battles, initiated the briefing. "Omega, you're not just our best option, you're our only option," he began, his voice resonant, cutting through the ambient whir of computers. The megacity Atlantis was a pinnacle of human achievement. Whatever happened and wiped it off the map wasn't natural. We need to know what happened. Next to him, Dr. Alara Miles, the project's lead scientist, stepped forward. She adjusted her glasses with a practiced motion before addressing their mechanical operative. "The last transmissions from Atlantis hinted at a threat," Miles explained, tapping on her tablet to bring up a decrypted message on the screen. "See here, Omega." Prime's head tilted slightly, his sensors analyzing the text. "Acknowledged, Dr. Miles. External threat implies potential alien involvement, maybe even portal-related. Probability of hostility upon encounter? Highly likely," interjected Lieutenant Coulson, the tactical advisor. "But given your design, you have the upper hand. Your Mechron parts aren't just for show. It's the finest our technology has to offer." Prime's visual sensors blinked once, a nod to human conventions. "Understood, Lieutenant. Preparedness for hostile engagements will be calculated en route. Will I have my usual arsenal available?" Lieutenant Coulson turned to General Hawthorne, seeking approval. The general shook his head decisively, signaling a firm no. Coulson continued, "We can only authorize the use of antimatter weapons down there. Positron guns just don't perform well underwater." "Understood," Prime replied. The room shifted attention as Commander Zhao, the mission strategist, unrolled a digital blueprint across the table. "Your path to Atlantis will be fraught with remnants of our past efforts. Sunken subs, abandoned outposts, they'll serve as waypoints. We've equipped you with the latest sonar tech." Prime turned to regard Zhao, his voice modulating to a lower register, which some in the room found oddly comforting. "Stealth approach is viable. We'll adhere to waypoints." General Hawthorne nodded, his eyes briefly closing as he marshaled his thoughts. "Remember, Omega, Atlantis holds answers we've sought for decades. You're to retrieve any logs, data, anything that can shed light on the catastrophe. And if you encounter resistance..." He paused, allowing a heavy silence to fill the room before continuing. "Use extreme prejudice." Prime's response was immediate, the lights beneath his surface plates glowing slightly brighter. "Mission parameters clear. Retrieve, analyze, neutralize threats. Human supremacy will be maintained even at the ocean floor." Dr. Miles smiled faintly, the tension easing from her features. "You were made for this, Omega. Not just built, but truly made for these moments." With a final scan of the room, Prime turned towards the deployment bay, his steps resonating with a purpose that matched the gravity of his task. The assembly watched in silent respect, their faith in human ingenuity, embodied by the towering figure of Omega Prime, renewed amidst the shadows of uncertainty. As the doors slid shut behind him, sealing Prime within the deployment chamber, General Hawthorne murmured to no one in particular, "Godspeed, Omega. Bring us back the truth." "Roger that, sir," Omega replied firm. And with those final words hanging in the air, the mission to rediscover Atlantis megacity began, one of the 5 megacities that was lost and never spoken about. The launch sequence was a symphony of mechanics and precision engineering, each note played by the thrum of turbines and the hiss of pressurizing airlocks. Prime stood within the deployment tube, a mechanical figure against the backdrop of pulsating lights that raced alongside him like comets streaking through a night sky. As the floor beneath him receded, Prime was swallowed by the cold embrace of the ocean. Water surged around him, a torrent that would have crushed any human, but to Prime, it was nothing, an expected resistance that he was built to withstand. The descent began, carrying him deeper into the murky depths where light dared not linger. His optical sensors adjusted, piercing through the gloom with infrared and ultraviolet capabilities. The descent was a quiet affair, broken only by the occasional ping of his sonar, mapping out the seabed's contours and any anomalies that might resemble the remnants of human occupation. Every so often, the sonar picked up echoes of structures that once teemed with life, now just ghostly silhouettes in the deep. Coulson's voice crackled through the comm unit, a reminder of the world above. Omega, you're approaching the first waypoint. Any signs of the old communication relay? Prime's voice was even, unaffected by the immense pressure that enveloped him. Affirmative. The structure is largely intact but shows signs of coral encroachment. No immediate threats detected. Keep your guard up, Coulson advised, his tone lighter now. You're not down there to make friends with the fish. Acknowledged. Though interaction with marine life remains unlikely, Prime responded, the slightest modulation in his tone suggesting a jest. The path to Atlantis was a labyrinth of undersea canyons and mountain ranges, more alien than any extraterrestrial landscape humanity had ever colonized. Prime navigated with ease, his systems calibrated for such environments, his frame agile against the currents that sought to sway lesser beings. As he moved, his internal database continuously updated with data collected en route. Temperature gradients, mineral deposits, the occasional curious squid that ventured too close to his lights. Neotech had designed his programming to not just complete his missions, but to observe, to learn. Every detail matters. Miles suddenly chimed in. Omega, we've detected slight seismic tremors in your vicinity. Can you confirm? Data confirms minor seismic activity. Adjusting stabilization protocols now, Prime replied, his systems effortlessly compensating for the tremors that would have alarmed a human crew. Stay sharp, Omega. We don't know what's down there, and we can't afford any surprises, Miles added, a hint of concern threading through her professional demeanor. Surprises are illogical in a universe governed by laws, Dr. Miles. However, I remain vigilant, Prime assured her, pushing further into the abyss, where the secrets of Atlantis awaited, shrouded in darkness and mystery. As the ocean's depth claimed him, Prime moved like a specter through the water, every sensor and circuit tuned to the task at hand, unfazed by the immense solitude that surrounded him. Atlantis was close now, its secrets almost within reach, and with each meter descended, humanity's hope of understanding the past and securing the future grew ever stronger. The ghostly ruins of the Atlantis megacity loomed before Prime as he emerged from the shadows of the ocean trench. The city, once a vibrant hub of human civilization, now lay silent and forsaken, its towering structures cloaked in darkness and entwined with the skeletal remains of marine flora. The city's grandeur now served as a haunting relic of despair. As Prime made his way inside through one of the airlocks, that surprisingly after decades still worked, as he entered, his sensors flickered with the residual energy signatures that whispered of the city's sudden demise. The skeletal frameworks of buildings stretched upwards, grasping at the dark waters above as if seeking salvation from their watery grave. He proceeded with caution, his movements precise. Dr. Miles's voice broke through the silence, her tone a mixture of awe and melancholy. It's hard to believe that Atlantis once housed over 50 million souls. It was a beacon of human achievement. They thought they were going to be way safer than the other cities on the surface, yet were one of the first to fall. Prime's response was calculated, yet not devoid of empathy. Visual records confirm previous human activity was vibrant and extensive. Current status is starkly contrasted. As Prime ventured deeper into the city, he reached what used to be the central plaza, now an eerie expanse surrounded by deserted edifices. Coulson's voice crackled with static as he checked in. Anything on the scanners yet, Omega? Scanning now, Prime replied, deploying a series of smaller drones from his chassis, each equipped with high-resolution scanners and data retrieval modules. Preliminary scans indicate possible data servers beneath the civic administration complex. Investigating further. The drones darted through broken windows and under collapsed archways, their lights piercing the darkness. Prime monitored their feeds, processing information at speeds unfathomable to the human mind. Suddenly, one of the drones signaled an anomaly, a section of the floor in what appeared to have been a secure communication room, not far from his current location. Prime navigated the debris-strewn pathways to reach it, his heavy steps silent amidst the vast silence of the ocean. As he entered the room, the sight that greeted him was one of chaos frozen in time. Terminals and equipment were scattered, and amidst them lay the skeletons of the city's inhabitants, a grim tableau of their final moments. It was a scene of abrupt cessation, as if life had been snatched away mid-breath. "Significant find," Prime transmitted back to Poseidon, his voice betraying no emotion, yet his data logs capturing every detail for analysis. "Evidence of sudden catastrophic event is visible. Retrieving data now. These people appear to have died on the spot." He approached the main terminal, its screen blank and encrusted with salt deposits. Prime connected to the console with his own system, sending out a pulse of electricity to awaken the dormant circuits. The screen flickered hesitantly before stabilizing, revealing logs and encrypted messages that hinted at a growing unease among the population, things showing up, then disappearing like shadows, warnings of an impending disaster, perhaps alien in origin. "Log secured," Prime announced, capturing the last urgent communications from Atlantis. He added, "Analyzing these could help us understand what went wrong." After a brief pause, he muttered to himself, "It looks like Atlantis was using energy drawn from the portal. Could that have triggered the disaster? I can't recall any experiment involving portal energy extraction that ended well. Not even the Mecrons have succeeded something like this." As he disconnected, the weight of Atlantis's fate seemed to press closer, the dark waters above Prime echoing with the ghosts of the past. Yet, for him, the mission was clear: uncover the truth and ensure such a fate never befell humanity again. With the data secured, he prepared to delve further into the mystery. Prime's systems processed the recovered data with deft precision as he navigated further into the labyrinthine depths of Atlantis. His next destination was the city's main research facility, rumored to have been at the forefront of advanced portal studies, the likely epicenter for uncovering more about this alien catastrophe. As he approached the facility, the architectural grandeur of the structure stood as a poignant reminder of its abandoned potential. Dr. Miles's voice came through the comlink, filled with a mix of anticipation and seriousness. "This facility once housed the brightest minds of our era. A spot in Atlantis wasn't easy to come by. You either had to be wealthy or invited. But just look at it now. If there's an answer to what happened, it's buried here. Have you found anything on your end yet, Omega?" "Entry secured. Proceeding to the main lab," Prime responded, his tone steady as he breached the sealed doors with a laser cutter integrated into his arm. The doors melted away under the intense heat, revealing a scene of stark desolation within. Inside, the lab was a tableau of urgency frozen in time. Papers were strewn about, holographic displays flickered intermittently, and a large central hologram projector lay dormant in the center of the room. A little deeper inside, he linked his systems to a server and powered it up. "The data here is extensive," Prime relayed as he scanned the information on the holographic screen. "It looks like the researchers were tracking shadows. There are indicators all over the city map. Hold on, one of the markers just moved." If Prime had been human, the revelation might have made his hair stand on end, but instead he simply raised his rifle, ready for what might come next. Coulson's voice came through, a hint of impatience underlining his usual calm. "Omega, can you determine its origin, alien or otherwise?" "Confirming now," as his advanced diagnostics kicked in, analyzing the data. "The shadows exhibits unfamiliar structures, likely alien. It seems to interfere with human DNA." The implications of such findings were profound. Atlantis had faced a threat. Assuming where these things came from, it had to be the portal room. As Prime sifted through more of the data, and the blip continued to get closer, his sensors picked up a faint energy signature emanating from that direction. Without hesitation, he descended into the depths of the facility, his lights cutting through the thick darkness that filled the stairwell. Reaching the lower chamber, Prime discovered a cryogenic storage unit hidden behind a false wall, a last-ditch effort by the researchers to preserve something of critical importance. Inside the unit, vials of various substances were meticulously labeled and organized. Dr. Miles, ever the scientist, could barely contain her excitement. Those could be samples of the thing they were facing. Retrieve them, Omega. This could be the key to not only understanding what happened, but perhaps to preventing a future catastrophe. Prime carefully secured the vials in his storage compartment, his programming ensuring the utmost care. Samples secured. As he prepared to leave the chamber, Prime scanned the room one last time, his systems logging every detail, from the desperate scrawlings on a nearby whiteboard to the frozen timestamp on a wall clock, stopped at the moment power had failed. The silent lab seemed to hold its breath, as if awaiting the outcome of a battle it had no hope of witnessing. Prime's journey through the dark, submerged corridors of Atlantis continued with unyielding purpose. While he navigated towards the city's engineering district, the alien genetic markers hinted at a technology advanced yet sinister, suggesting a deliberate infiltration into human biology and society. Prime reached out to Miles first. This might be nothing, but we should verify if there were any survivors. If these shadows can infiltrate human DNA, they might have been trying to take hosts. Dr. Miles responded, I'll cross-reference the data, but the official story is that there were no survivors. Prime interjected, Miles, we both know Neotech doesn't exactly play by the book. Roger that, Omega, she replied, determination in her voice. I'll get to the bottom of this. As he navigated through the remains of a vast collapsed building, Prime planned to descend further, but found that water had flooded the lower levels of the city. His path was now lit only by the faint bioluminescence of marine life that had taken over this part of the city. The eerie glow cast surreal shadows against the ruins, with each flicker of light revealing more about the tragedy that had struck Atlantis. Suddenly, Prime's sensors detected an anomaly, an entity moving stealthily through the ruins towards him. His combat systems activated reflexively, readying for confrontation with an alien. Zhao's earlier warnings echoed in his databanks, prepping him for what might be his first encounter with the aliens responsible for Atlantis' downfall. Contact with unidentified entity imminent. Likely hostile. Engaging stealth mode. Prime transmitted back to Poseidon, his voice devoid of concern but rich with determination. Dr. Miles responded quickly, her voice laced with tension. Be cautious, Omega. We don't know what capabilities these things possess. The entity soon revealed itself, emerging from the depths. A blob of pure darkness, sleek and unlike anything human design, its surface a blackest of black that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Prime noted its approach pattern, calculating the best strategy for engagement. Observing and analyzing. The shadow appears to be scouting. It possibly detected my signature and came to check it out. Prime analyzed the situation aloud. Coulson, always strategic, offered his insight. It might be trying to gather data. Try to capture it if you can, Omega. It could give us invaluable intel, or if not, blast it. Prime maneuvered around the shadow, using his thruster's superior agility to get behind it. He extended a grappling device, aiming to disable and capture it without significant damage. The shadow, sensing the attack, tried to evade, darting away with surprising speed and agility. A brief chase ensued, Prime pursuing the entity through the twisted metal and glass of the cityscape. His systems were fully engaged, each movement precise and calculated. The creature, seemingly realizing escape was improbable, turned to confront its pursuer, shooting out a series of small, sharp black projectiles. Prime's defensive protocols activated, deflecting the projectiles with an pinpoint Tetron barrier system, a system specifically designed to deflect any weapon without having to constantly use power, even positron weaponry. Hostile engagement confirmed. Neutralizing threat, he declared as he closed in on it. As the creature approached Prime, it suddenly halted, as if realizing too late that it had encountered a predator. With swift precision, he fired 3 antimatter rounds into its body before the shadow could even react to his lightning-fast movements. Target eliminated, he reported back, watching as the corpse dissolved into energy. It appears they are an energy-based life form, which explains why they showed up on the tactical map. But looking at the city now, it's clear they were too late to use this knowledge to their advantage. Good work, Omega. Dr. Miles's voice carried a mix of relief. Prime resumed his mission, deeper into the heart of what was once a bustling district of innovation and now served as his battlefield. As he moved forward, the implications of his discovery began to unfold within his analytical mind. The silence of the ocean around him belied the critical nature of his mission, but Omega Prime was not deterred. With each step, he was rewriting the fate of humanity, one data byte at a time. The Shadow's destruction had been a tactical victory, yet Prime was acutely aware that it could also act as a beacon, alerting others to his presence. As he crossed into what had been the industrial sector of the city, his sensors remained on high alert, scanning for any further signs of alien technology or traps. The streets were lined with factories and workshops, their machinery still and silent, coated in a thick layer of sediment and marine growth. Zhao's voice broke through the static in a burst of caution. "Remember, Omega, that Shadow wasn't alone. Expect more to be coming. You've probably already triggered their alert system by killing one of theirs." "Affirmative," Prime replied, his systems analyzing every possible entry point for an ambush. His processors worked overtime, sifting through data, predicting probabilities, and preparing contingencies. It wasn't long before his predictions confirmed, as multiple shadow signatures suddenly spiked on his sonar. "Multiple hostiles approaching, preparing for engagement," Prime reported, his tone as calm as the deep sea surrounding him. From the shadows of the derelict buildings, several shadows emerged, similar to the one he had killed but clearly larger. Their sleek forms cut through the water with lethal precision, encircling Prime with practiced coordination. Dr. Miles piped up, her voice tense. "Use everything you have, Omega. You have to hold them off." Prime positioned himself back to a collapsed wall, minimizing the angles of attack. His internal systems recalibrated, selecting the most effective countermeasures. He deployed a series of short-range electric pulses in an attempt to disrupt the Shadow's navigation. The first pulse hit its mark, causing one of the Shadows to contort, stopping its attack. However, the others adapted quickly, spreading out and changing their attack patterns. Coulson's tactical advice came through just in time. Try to overload their sensory organs if they have anything like that, with a high-frequency sonar burst. It might give you a blind spot to exploit. Acknowledging the input, Prime adjusted his sonar output to an almost imperceptible high pitch. The water around him vibrated with the intensity of the sound, a weapon invisible but potent. The Shadows hesitated, their movements becoming erratic. Seizing the moment, Prime fired off a series of rounds into the now almost still Shadows. One by one, the creatures were killed, making them dissipate into nothingness. With the immediate threat neutralized, Prime scanned the area, ensuring no further adversaries were hidden in the shadows. "Area secure. Resuming mission protocol," he confirmed, his systems reporting on any minor damages incurred during the skirmish. As he moved on, the implications of such a coordinated attack were not lost on him. The alien presence in Atlantis was not merely residual, it was active and possibly aware of human efforts to reclaim the city. His steps were measured, his sensors continuously scanning, as he plunged further into the heart of Atlantis, where secrets lay buried and his adversaries awaited. Every shadow could hide a threat, but Omega Prime was not deterred. He was built for this, built to face the unknown, and built to prevail. As he moved deeper into the heart of the megacity, heading toward the portal unit. Each city had its own version of the original portal, a copy, primarily used for research. However, this city had ambitiously attempted to tap into its theoretically unlimited power supply to fuel its grid, a feat the Mecrons had tried and failed to achieve for millennia. At this point, it seemed like a fool's errand to try and master the gateway between the Triverse, as it always behaved unpredictably. The central portal core hub, a massive structure resembling a steel and glass spiral, rose imposingly before him. Its exterior was marred by the passage of time and the deep seawater, yet it still stood as a beacon of the world that had been. Prime's objective was clear: penetrate the hub and extract any remaining data that could provide insights into the city's final days and the alien intervention. Dr. Miles's voice came through his audio receptors, tinged with a mix of awe and urgency. "You're approaching one of the most critical parts of your mission, Omega. The central hub contains the city's mainframe. If there's anything left that can tell us more about the aliens, it will be there." Acknowledging her, Prime scanned the entry points. The main doors were sealed shut, their locking mechanisms corroded but still potentially active. Utilizing a high-frequency laser, he cut through the alloy like a surgeon with a scalpel, precise and calculated, until the door relented, allowing him entry. Then he kicked the doors open. Prime thought to himself, always wanted to do that. Inside, the hub was a labyrinth of corridors and data vaults. Prime navigated through them, his sensors alert for any signs of remaining security measures or alien devices. The walls were lined with dormant screens and terminals, which flickered to life sporadically under the influence of his presence, stirred by the powerful antimatter reactor in his system. Coulson chimed in, his tone a mix of caution and intrigue. Remember, those halls might still have some operational security protocols due to how important they were. Stay sharp. Affirmative, Prime replied, his sensors quickly picking up signals of an ancient security network springing to life. Large miniguns emerged from the floor and began to spin, locking onto Prime. As soon as they recognized his presence, they unleashed a barrage of bullets at a rate of 1,000 rounds per minute. The force of the gunfire knocking Prime backwards, but not taking significant damage. Regaining his composure, he activated his Tetron Hex barrier shield to block the incoming fire, sending bullets ricocheting wildly. Prime muttered, "Okay, you had your fun, now it's my turn." With a few swift commands, he disabled the network, a digital whisper in the vast silence of the deep ocean as the guns went offline. Reaching the central core, Prime found himself in front of a massive terminal, its screen dark and imposing. He connected to the terminal, initiating a sequence to power it back on. His internal systems worked in harmony with the Atlantis network, a symphony of old and new technologies communicating in bursts of data. As the system powered up, Prime's screens filled with logs, video feeds, and scientific data, overwhelming in their volume, but invaluable in their content. He began to download the information, filtering through it with an efficiency only a machine could manage. Scanning through the files, Prime stumbled upon encrypted files marked with high security. His decryption algorithms kicked in, slowly peeling back layers of security to reveal secret files. They contained detailed reports of non-commissioned experiments, and a series of frantic communications between Atlantis and the other megacities, pleas for help and warnings of an impending disaster. But after a swift rescue attempt by multiple cities coordinating their attempt, having more casualties than successes, the city was quarantined and any information suppressed. Prime muttered to himself, "So, upper management knew what was happening but kept us in the dark. That's so neotech of them." The files Prime accessed revealed a grim scenario. The city's scientists had made a desperate attempt to shut down their replica portal. The logs detailed how the portal began emitting shadows that were initially invisible to the naked eye. By the time the scientists detected the anomaly, at first it just appeared as a mere stream of energy. However, the situation quickly deteriorated as these entities began taking over human bodies. Rather than simple manipulation, they fused entirely with their hosts, creating a new, monstrous hybrid that possessed human intelligence. However, most of the logs beyond these were corrupted beyond repair. Still, significant discovery, Prime reported, downloading all data. Prime felt a surge of data rush through his circuits. This was what he had been sent here to find. Within the shadowy corridors of Atlantis's main scientific research facility, Prime moved with stealth, his sensors vigilantly scanning for any lingering dangers. He understood that each new discovery edged humanity closer to not only reclaiming Atlantis, but also securing safety from the alien threats emerging from the sea. The first megacity, with its still open portal, was already a monumental challenge for humanity to contend with. The facility was a sprawling complex of labs, each designed for various fields of study, but now it served as the focal point for Prime's critical synthesis work. His internal systems calibrated the precise chemical reactions needed, his mechanical precision ensuring no margin for error. As Prime worked, Dr. Miles's voice crackled through the comm, her tone filled with restrained excitement. "You're doing more than retrieving data now, Omega. You're on the brink of completing what the best minds of Atlantis started. This antidote they came up with as a last-ditch effort to immunize a human could change everything. It even required a special machine." Prime's reply was measured, his tone unchanged despite the significance of his task. "Understood. Synthesis is proceeding on schedule, preparing for final compound stabilization." As luck had it, the labs he needed weren't flooded, Requiring airlocks to enter, it kept the seawater out. The lab around him buzzed with the soft whir of his operational units. Vials and ingredients were methodically processed, mixed under his watchful sensors. Each step was logged and monitored, data flowing seamlessly through his circuits. In the quiet, Coulson's more pragmatic voice interjected, "Omega, just remember, that antidote isn't worth much if we can't get it, and you, back safely." Prime acknowledged the warning. "Defensive protocols remain active. I am prepared for potential engagements, systems operating at 99.9%. As the antidote neared completion, Prime's sensors detected a surge in external activity. Energy signatures spiked as shadows, likely alerted by his actions, began converging on his location. It wasn't just a few scattered scouts this time. Their movements were coordinated, a tactical assault to reclaim or destroy what Prime was about to complete. As he secured the newly synthesized antidote in a reinforced containment unit within his chassis, with the precious cargo secured, he activated his combat systems to full readiness, his one-of-a-kind antimatter reactor humming with the power of the sun, the fluorescent lights of the lab reflecting off his polished metal exterior, casting him in a ghostly glow. The shadows breached the facility with startling ferocity. Prime met them with equal force, his rifle fire slicing through the water as he dodged incoming spikes. The confined space of the lab became a deadly dance floor, Prime's movements precise and calculated, as he took them out one by one. Dr. Miles's voice was tense as she monitored the skirmish from afar. "Use the lab to your advantage, Omega." Taking her advice, Prime led the shadows through the lab's maze-like corridors, where he had set up various traps using the lab equipment. High-voltage equipment became weapons in his skilled hands. One by one, the shadows fell, incapacitated by Prime's strategic use of the lab's resources. He utilized everything from magnetic fields to disrupt their cohesion to simple electrical arcs that ensnared and disabled them. With the immediate threat neutralized, Prime reviewed his systems, ensuring no critical damage had been sustained. His primary focus remained clear: return the antidote to human command and use the data collected to ensure no such tragedy would befall humanity again. As he prepared to exit the lab, his sensors still vigilant for any further threats, Prime's programming affirmed the mission's success so far. Yet, he knew the journey back to the surface would be fraught with peril. With the synthesized antidote secure within his chassis, he initiated the exit protocol from Atlantis's main scientific research facility. His steps were measured, calculated for maximum efficiency, as he navigated the dark, winding passages that led back to the ocean's open expanse. The route he chose was strategic, designed to avoid major places where alien shadows were most likely to be, given their recent aggressive engagement. As he made his silent procession, Zhao's voice cut through the solitude, each word marked by the gravity of their situation. "Omega, our scans indicate increased alien activity above the city. It seems your actions have drawn considerable attention. Be prepared for a tough extraction." "Affirmative." Prime's reply was crisp, the single word a declaration of his readiness. His systems were on high alert, every sensor finely tuned to detect the slightest disturbance in the surrounding areas. The path to the surface was fraught with remnants of the city's once glorious past. As he moved past grand statues and towering buildings, their forms blurred and distorted by the accumulation of marine growth. His powerful lights cut through the darkness, revealing schools of fish that darted away at his approach. Dr. Miles's voice broke through, tinged with both concern and determination. "Make sure the antidote is protected at all costs, Omega. This is bigger than any of us now." The first signs of trouble appeared as shadows moving swiftly through the water, converging on his position. As he changed course, detouring through a less direct but safer route. But the alien forces were persistent. Shadows more aggressive than those he had previously encountered soon adapted to his tactics. They began to corral him towards a bottleneck, a narrow canyon lined with the jagged ruins of collapsed structures. Prime analyzed the terrain swiftly, his tactical processors devising a plan. Utilizing environmental advantage, he communicated back to command, his voice steady despite the escalating threat. As he entered the canyon, he triggered a series of controlled collapses with precise shots, causing rocky debris to fall, creating barriers and obstacles that hindered the shadow's advance. The confined space worked to his advantage, amplifying the impact of his countermeasures. Coulson's voice came in, edged with adrenaline. Looks like you're making your own maze down there. Keep them guessing, Omega. And Prime did just that. He led the shadows on a destructive chase, weaving through the natural labyrinth, using every turn to his advantage. When they managed to adapt and regroup, Prime pulled out some new tricks, his tactical cunning showing through here. After a relentless pursuit, he emerged from the canyon, the open water before him a dark, welcoming expanse. But the surface was still far away, and he knew the final ascent would be the most perilous part of his journey. As he propelled himself upwards, his propulsion systems working at full capacity, the water around him began to churn with the arrival of larger alien shadows, their ominous silhouettes cutting through the water with intimidating speed. Command, approaching surface. Hostile aliens detected near surface, Prime reported, preparing for the final confrontation. Dr. Miles responded, her voice a beacon of resolve in the dark depths. You're almost there, Omega. Whatever they throw at you, remember what you're carrying. With his antimatter rifle doing overtime, Prime ascended as fast as he could, the weight of humanity's hope stored within him. Omega Prime surged forward, his systems locked on the distant light filtering down from above. Each movement was a testament to human engineering and resolve, a dance of light and shadow as he navigated the final gauntlet towards safety and triumph. As he surged upward through the murky depths, the pressure of the ocean lessening with every meter ascended, yet the pressure of his mission weightier than ever. Above, the silhouettes of aliens loomed, like dark sentinels poised to prevent his exodus from the watery abyss of Atlantis. Each beat of his propulsion jets was a calculated burst, steering him through the perilous gauntlet of the enemies. Just as Prime was reloading, one of the alien entities caught up from behind and attempted to fuse with him, sparking a fierce battle of wills and processing power. Prime could feel the shadow creeping into every system, and then, eerily, a voice spoke directly in binary within his main logic unit. Overwhelmed, he momentarily lost control. In that instant, Prime activated his self-destruct sequence. With his systems compromised, the countdown began. Self-destruct in 3, 2. Shocked by Prime's apparent willingness to sacrifice himself, the entity hastily disengaged in an attempt to survive. Prime responded, "Just kidding," as he finished reloading and shot the shadowy being point blank. As he neared the boundary where water met sky, the intensity of the pursuit increased. Dr. Miles's voice crackled through the calm, a steadfast presence in the chaos. "You're almost clear, Omega. Just break the surface, and we'll take it from there." Understanding the strategic significance of these final moments, Prime made his final push to the surface. The alien beings recalibrated their attacks, their aggression unyielding. But as Prime breached the surface, the scene transformed dramatically. The sky, streaked with the colors of dawn, welcomed him back to the surface world. Above, the friendly silhouettes of human air support zoomed into view, their presence a stark contrast to the alien aggressors. Coulson's voice, laced with relief and triumph, boomed in Omega's audio receptors. "That's our cue, folks. Let's clean up and bring our boy home." Missiles streaked from human aircraft, precise and swift, finding their targets with deadly accuracy. The aliens, caught off guard by the sudden onslaught, scrambled to retaliate, but found themselves outmatched by human firepower and the natural rays of the sun. Prime, his mission nearing completion, allowed his systems a momentary slowdown as he ascended towards the waiting human forces. The rescue crafts, equipped for rapid retrieval, moved in, providing cover fire as they secured a harness around his sturdy frame. As he was hoisted into the air, away from the ocean that had been his battlefield, he processed the data from his successful mission. The antidote was secure, the threat of the alien pathogen now a puzzle with a solution. Back on the Poseidon, General Hawthorne greeted Prime as he was lowered onto the deck. The general's face, usually an unreadable mask of command, broke into a rare smile. "Well done, soldier. You've not only brought back the key to our survival against these beings that have potentially infiltrated the megacities, but also the proof that no threat is too great, no enemy too powerful." Prime's cameras, which served as his eyes, focused on Hawthorne, and then on the crew gathered around, their faces alight with victory and newfound hope. "Mission accomplished," he stated simply, the weight of his words not lost on anyone present. As technicians prepared to move Prime to the debriefing room, Dr. Miles stepped forward, her eyes fixed on the robotic hero who had turned the tide of battle. Thanks to you, Omega, we can finally start to push back against this alien threat, hinting at something that she knew more about. Let's get this antidote deployed. After all, we have a world to save, she said, her voice filled with gratitude. Prime simply responded, Dr. Miles, just call me Prime. Surprised by his response, Dr. Miles smiled slightly and nodded. Sure thing, Prime. Prime's frame, still echoing the readiness of battle, eased slightly, signaling his mission was complete. As he walked toward the lab, his steps reflected more than mechanical function. He moved as a symbol of humanity's enduring fight for survival. In the war room, amidst the flurry of plans for deploying the antidote to the 3 cities, Omega Prime stood among the humans, a silent sentinel always prepared for the next challenge. This was just one of many missions Prime had completed in the vast universe known as the Triverse. The tales of his other adventures will have to wait for another time. If you've stuck with me up to this point, a heartfelt thank you. I'd also like to take a moment to remind you that my entire channel is dedicated to the Triverse and its enthralling Mechanoid saga. While many of the stories stand alone, allowing you to dive in at any point, crafting these narratives takes about 4 or 5 days each, so your patience is greatly appreciated. If you find yourself enjoying what you see, consider exploring more of my videos. Each one, in its own unique way, weaves together more of the overarching story I'm telling.